Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs, welcome to Drippin, question time. People, I have an ask. I'm going to ask you to subscribe and like the video on the way in. It's been an age of silencing, cancellations and extreme views. I think we need more independent podcasters to report and bring you the truth of what is actually happening in the world. So if you like my content and agree with anything I have to say, please hit subscribe and like the video, and let's help spread the word. I have 2 questions today. I think the best answer to both of these questions are based heavily in the realm of psychology and experience. So, training in hand, let's jump right in with both feet and mouth wide open. All questions that are posted to me, I'm going to respond to them on face value. I'm going to assume that the contents are true regardless of trends, stereotypes and assumptions. The only time which I'll be clear about when presented, that I will question the authenticity of the contents of a question is when I'm presented with contradictions or evidenced falsities. What is ruining relationships? Well, I think there are a few things. Dating apps come to mind immediately, but let's explore a little deeper using the familiar discipline of psychology. Let's start with the butterfly phase, or more commonly known as the honeymoon period or phase. Meeting somebody for the first time, coupled with a riveting sexual attraction to them will be very intoxicating. You think about them constantly, intensely, in a healthy way. You get butterflies, you're infatuated with them, you idealize them. The dopamine released into your system makes you euphoric. You even tend to be more than usually impulsive, as you're not truly utilizing your sense of judgment. Now, this feeling is not to be confused for limerence. Limerence is similar to the honeymoon period, but can grow to be very unhealthy and damaging. The key differences are, the butterfly effect is temporary. Now, I'll come to that key difference later on. Limerence tends to be one-sided and not reciprocated by the other party. Limerence is markedly more intensive. Butterfly phase has the ability to make a person impulsive. Limerence guarantees it. Limerence transcends reality in the way that the butterfly effect phase is based and grounded in reality. The afflicted knows all so well the limitations of the target, doesn't tend to deify them, and that they are very much indeed human, albeit an amazing one. So, as the occurrence of limerence is much rarer than the butterfly phase and more applicable to the question at hand, I'm going to return to the temporary component of the butterfly phase. As stated, the afflicted is dosed with feel-good sensations from the dopamine and feel on top of the world. There's a saying coined by the famous Geoffrey Chaucer in one of his Canterbury Tales called The Tale of Maliby. It was published circa 1386. And that saying is, familiarity breeds contempt. Now, what does this wise saying mean? The more familiar, the closer you get to a person, the less you have respect for them. So let's be a bit more generous and keep it to familiar, meaning that their everyday fates are within the boundaries of normality. There are activities that are indeed insurmountable, and the very real limitations of humanity are observed on a daily basis. So the nervousness, excitement, unpredictability, and most importantly, the dopamine hits are vastly reduced and in some cases become non-existent. Now, there is a demographic of men that seek to bed both suspecting and unsuspecting women and simply discard them in a bid for ultimate, regular and diverse sexual gratification. Most men are tarnished with the blame for this 5 to 10% of men, but this only equates to 5 to 10% of men, as circa 70% of men are invisible to women and fall short due to factors such as annual income, height, attractiveness, body type, condition and age. Now obviously, as nothing being a monolith, I could not and would not state that either man or woman are wholly or for the most part responsible for the breakdown of relationships. But the following factual information should be kept in mind. Men and women seek out and experience dopamine hits very differently. For anyone who's interested, or for the naysayers out there, I've included a link to a neuropsychopharmacological study that studies the effect of dopamine on women and men. The study is called Sex Differences in Dopamine Release Regulation in the Striatum. And this study was undertaken by the knowledgeable National Institute of Sex. Now, the conclusion to this study is that voltometry studies have shown that females have increased evoked dopamine release as well as enhanced clearance rates. What does this mean? This means that females have an increased want, desire and ability to call forth a dopamine hit, ergo are more likely to actively and subconsciously seek out activities that will reward one's brain with said hit. Females also have an enhanced clearance rate, which means it's short-lived. Now, this interesting fact, coupled with the, in comparison, overwhelming opportunities in the sexual market, the 75 to 80% divorce rate initiated by women statistic, is a very good and reinforced argument that these can be a leading cause of relationship failure. Now, we're in the age of instant gratification. We've been slowly trained and propagandized and indoctrinated and re-educated over time. Now, this phenomenon, unfortunately, has ebbed into relationship dynamics between men and women. Now, as I've said in previous podcasts, dopamine is subconsciously addictive and leads one to seek out and undertake activities that will stimulate the hypothalamus, the area of the brain which is responsible for the creation of dopamine, to get their hit. And a very easy way of doing this is to end your relationship and seek another. And I say easy because propaganda, social media, social trends, peer pressure from friends, and movements such as feminism that tells people that it's empowering to live a life of promiscuity reward you should you find another partner. And what's the result? New instances of the butterfly phase, new hits of dopamine. This is one of the biggest reasons why modern relationships are failing. As a species, generations have passed since monogamy and the very real advantages of traditional relationships. We are a species with amnesia. We can no longer remember the good old days. We can no longer remember that there are many more advantages to monogamy than promiscuity. Some of those advantages are stability. Continuity breeds security. Financial stability. Combined resources of two people going through life together can afford much better finances. Improved sex. You learn each other's body, mind, and technique. What they like, what they dislike, how to arouse them. And once learned, the rewards are boundless. I understand that sex with a new partner is exhilarating, however, falls short compared to the rewards of an increased probability of success. Social acceptance. Now, I know that society and propaganda are desperately trying to change this, but there is nothing as lofty as being married in a loving relationship with a deep sense of security, trust, and safety. You know, one of my most favorite philosophers is Confucius. Confucianism teaches that marriage is a foundation of morality, states and proves that actions of degeneracy and promiscuity are indefensible. There are, of course, other valid and heavily evidenced reasons why modern relationships are failing, namely salary taxes, hypergamy, a very real topic which is covered in detail in the discipline of evolutionary psychology. Systemic influence, the reduction in testosterone, and gender rights are a few examples, and also a rabbit hole of topics for another podcast. Did I make a mistake? I'm a 32-year-old female and I've been with my boyfriend who's a 34-year-old male for the past 3.5 years. We have been living together for the past 2 years and it's been a roller coaster throughout. I've been going to the gym more and trying to eat healthy, which is something he had expressed he wanted. I've been enjoying it and really proud of my accomplishments, but it seems like every time I'm excited to tell him something I accomplished, he brushes it off as if it's no big deal, and even said that he doesn't like being forced to essentially compliment me. But whenever he comes home from the gym, he looks at himself in the mirror for quite a while and says, "Impressive, right?" Tonight I tried to tell him that it doesn't make sense to me that he looks for the same validation that I do but expects me to give it to him and won't give it to me. His response was that I need to be more my own person. I really just wanted him to acknowledge all the hard work I've been putting in and make me feel loved and beautiful. He hasn't made me feel that way in quite some time. Did I make a mistake by reaching out for a compliment? I didn't think it was too much of an ask for. Does it come across as me being too needy? Okay, I'm going to answer this question and then outline a few things that I believe women, for the most part, need. First of all, it's commendable that we have here a woman in this day and age, in this climate, that is not only listening to her boyfriend, but is selflessly accommodating his wants and desires. The first thing is that if you're going to the gym, making gains and enjoying it, it's very important that it makes you happy. That's the source right there, because no amount of external validation can make you happy long term if you in turn are not happy. It's not only awesome but proper that the validation you seek comes from your boyfriend. Really, my hat comes off to you. Now, I'm sure that if you've confided in friends, the word narcissist may have been thrown around, but I'm going to assure you it's impossible to diagnose a narcissist with this small amount of information at hand and not having the subject here for evaluation. And even then, narcissistic personality disorder is one of the most difficult to diagnose. DSM-5-TR dictates that it has to be diagnosed from the other 3 personality disorders, which are antisocial personality disorder, ASPD, borderline personality disorder, BPD, and histrionic personality disorder, HPD. Now, patients can have a mixture of the above or not at all, and can be or not a narcissist. Then, finally, we have half the British Psychological Society and other communities casting speculation as to if this condition even exists. But with that being said, he is exhibiting some serious narcissistic traits, or playing some kind of game. Now, it seems that you've tried to address this problem, and if you have, in a calm and non-heated manner, then you're faced with 2 choices. Option 1, carry on regardless and revel in your own accomplishments. Learn how to truly appreciate yourself. Set new targets and goals in the gym, and don't ask him again. If he prompts you to compliment him, don't be nasty. There's no need to be passive aggressive or adversarial. Simply don't. If he asks again and insists on being complimented, then you know your vocabulary, you know your mannerisms. Make your response passive so it means next to nothing. Be polite and never ask him to validate your gains. Also, the big one, try to refrain from seeking validation elsewhere, as this can lead you on a very slippery slope. Option 2. Evaluate whether this behavior is present in other areas of your relationship. If so, then it's a very valid reason to seriously take time to assess the viability of your relationship. So guys, come on. There are certain things that human beings need, and in particular, women, and that's to be heard, understood, and listened to. Now, if you have a girlfriend that's willing to listen to you and undertake activities in a bid to please you, and also demonstrates commitment and vigor, see it for what it is. Rare, a diamond in the rough. You know, a lot of women know and understand that validation from men is in no short supply. If your girlfriend's coming to you and talking to you about this, and even showing and proving your hypocrisy, you need to listen. You see, women are not the most direct communicators and go about things in a circular way. Women's emotions are chaotic. Now, that's not to say that they're bad, but they have the ability to change randomly, sporadically, and intensely due to a whole host of factors. I mean, have you ever seen that there was something wrong with a woman and you said to her, "What's wrong?" And she said, "Nothing." There you go. Now, this woman is communicating directly. This is rare. Women, my friend, are in need of validation, compliments, affection, and listening to. Instead of jumping to solve their problems, sometimes it's best to listen to their problems and be sympathetic. They need consistency, security, and protection. Now, again, that's not to say that they can't protect themselves, but she wants to know and feel that you have her back. Now, if you're lucky enough to find a truly wonderful, good woman, and you can demonstrate all of the above, then my friend, you have great chances of success. On the nature of most women, women in modernity don't generally leave a relationship unless she's been presented with the possibility of another that she thinks is viable. So it's quite possible that you could have already blown your chances and she's just hanging around until something better comes along. Now, how did we get here? You're not telling her that she's beautiful or complimenting her enough. You shrug off her questions and concerns. Now, it's very possible that she may go and confide in her friends. And let's face it, a lot of women have been propagandized, give terrible advice, are uninformed about the ways of man, and believe the feminist handbook on men. And remember, misery loves company. So confiding in a friend on such a delicate topic such as your intimate relationship may not be the best idea. And there's a worse option. She could confide in a male friend. Now, he could be a mate, but after having such a conversation with him, he's now a friend. And if she thinks that he has a superior ability to listen and to understand her, you're in trouble. And I've been saying this regularly on this podcast. What are male friends? They are all your potential replacements. So congratulations on building a bridge from her to him. There's also the possibility of posting pictures on Instagram, especially as now that she's going to the gym. The functional equivalent to porn for men is women posting pictures for likes and validation on Instagram. The psychological effect is exactly the same. And as you know, Instagram is the #1 dating app. It's evident that even overweight, unattractive women are hunted and approached on Instagram for obvious uses. So if she's somewhat attractive, she's going to receive the much sought after validation from strange men online, liking her pictures, propositioning her whilst brandishing their expensive cars and lifestyles. Now you see why it's a slippery slope. I understand that sayings are there for a reason. They're statements that ring true with the majority of people's experience. Treat them mean, keep them keen. Nice guys finish last. Treat her like a star and she'll treat you like a fan. I know that there's a profound amount of truth in these sayings, and each and every one of us have seen them played out in real life. You have to be able to ascertain whether she's teetering on the edge or not. How sensitive or hurt is she about the situation? It's a delicate process. To give her enough, but not so much that she gets drunk. Because let's face it, each and every one of us behave inappropriately when we're drunk. But above all, you must listen to her and allow her to feel safe in confiding in you, lest she confide in Chad. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs, this has been a Drippin question time. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any arguments or disagreements with anything that I said, please feel free to comment underneath. And again, would you like, comment and subscribe so more voices can get out and you can help me carry on making content for you. Thank you very much, guys and girls. See you soon.